This is the first in a series of semi-regular updates on the restoration of the Keith and Dufftown Railways Class 107, which was acquired from the Strathspey Railway in late 2023. The unit has lain out of service for a number of years and requires a complete restoration. The Class 107s are very similar to the Class 108s already in service on the line, but they have steel body shells rather than aluminium. They were built in Derby in the late 50s and spent most of their service lives in the central belt of Scotland before being retired in the early 90s. More information on the units is available in the video linked in the description. Since arrival, plans for the unit have changed slightly. Originally, the driving motor coach was to be converted to partner the railway's tram. However, the unit will now receive a more conventional restoration. The focus remains on the driving motor, with work on the brake to follow once this coach has been restored. The 107 is in quite poor condition and has suffered a bit of water damage. The body, being steel, has some corrosion and areas of the internal woodwork are rotten. Over the past year, the 107 has been something of a secondary project, the main project being the upgrading of a Class 108 driving motor to partner the tram. Despite these resource constraints, some significant work has been completed. The seats and internal panelling were removed, though unfortunately most of the panels, which are a hardboard melamine laminate, were badly water damaged. The Class 107s were never fully stripped of asbestos by BR, and there is a layer below the floor for fireproofing. This was removed by a specialist contractor who stripped the floor, leaving only the sheet metal panels and exposed frames. This was completed in autumn 24, after which the units were shunted to the back of the yard as Santa specials and other work took priority. In February, we hauled the driving motor coach to a more convenient siding next to one of the workshops, so we could start work on it again. The plan now is to finish stripping the interior and prepare for bodywork repairs. These are due to commence in May and will be undertaken by some specialists who have helped a number of heritage railways refurbish their DMUs. As can be seen, there are various areas of corrosion in the body. The worst of these have rusted right through. The first task was to lay a temporary floor to aid movement within the unit, as when the asbestos was stripped, all that was left was thin sheet metal panels that are not strong enough to stand on. Next up, one of the more unpleasant tasks, stripping the glass wool insulation from the walls. A lot of this was damp, and much of it heavily contaminated with carbon from the exhausts. The roof ventilators draw in the exhaust under certain circumstances, and over the decades, this builds up on the glass fibre. The damp glass fibre was also responsible for much of the damage to the interior panels. With this removed, the internal metalwork can be inspected. Fortunately, most of the framing only has surface rust. The hardwood framing which shapes the internal panels is also in surprisingly good condition, especially given the state of the hardboard panels covering it. However, there are some areas of rot. There is still some panelling left in the rear, and the toilet compartment will also need to be removed. In order to prepare for the bodywork repairs, the windows and frames will need to be removed. The internal wooden frames are held on with special fasteners. These were soaked in WD-40 and left for a week before being retreated. This paid off, and most yielded to the impact driver. The wooden frames were found to be badly rotted and had swollen into the channels that they sit in. This made them something of a pain to remove. The external frames are metal and riveted on. These rivets will be drilled and punched out, leaving one in each corner to keep the window frame from falling out. The last rivets will be removed when the unit is moved indoors, allowing the complete window to be taken out, ready for the body repairs. The cab interior panels, windows and fiberglass dome all need to be removed, but the details on how we do this will be in the next update.